Welcome back to Comic Cappers. Today we will be capping the 5th issue of Absolute Batman, where Bruce begins his war on Gotham's elite. With that said, grab a snack, sit back, relax, and enjoy the ride. Bruce receives a medical injection, with the doctor confirming the procedure is complete. Abstract, stylized imagery of bats fills the panel, emphasizing a dark, pervasive atmosphere. Bruce, still shirtless, sits on the exam table as Leslie Tompkins finishes up. He confirms it's the last injection, though the mood remains somber. Leslie gives Bruce a half-teasing, half-serious warning, telling him to report any bizarre symptoms like growing fangs or pointy ears immediately. Bruce acknowledges her as Dr. Tompkins, a visceral, close-up shot of a snarling bat, suggesting the ominous nature of his transformation or mission. A silhouette of Bruce stands against a rainy backdrop as a caption ominously declares that otherwise, this marks the end for both him and the bats. We open on a somber, rain-swept funeral scene. A young Bruce Wayne, dressed in black and holding a single red rose, stands at a graveside, comforted by a tall, silhouetted figure. The title card marks this as the 5th part of the zoo. Batman tears through the city streets on his bike, revving the engine as he rounds 27th. A digital readout displays a bounty on his head, currently sitting at over $137,000 with a clear command to stand down. He revs it even louder at 39th, pushing the tension to the limit. A skull-masked thug watches from the shadows, his face a chilling mask of indifference. It's a deliberate provocation. He's practically taunting them to make a move. But the party animals just watch, letting him pass without firing a shot. The bounty climbs again, hitting over $142,000 as the city tracks his every move. The observer watching him notes the irony. Batman is daring them to blow up the deal, and there's a part of him that clearly wants them to take the bait. The bike streaks past a gunman, the sound of the engine filling the street. We get a look at the tracker on the bike, a digital dot moving across the grid. The observer admits they half expected him to drive straight past the meeting spot, but he doesn't. He pulls up exactly where he's expected, heading into the building. His contact, watching from a screen, simply mutters, "Well done." The handler calls to confirm they have the data they need, ordering an immediate exit. The observer plays along, telling them they're leaving, but they don't budge. A GCPD cruiser sits outside a building at night as someone calls out to Jim Gordon, asking if he's ready. Inside, a woman holding a Gordon for Mayor sign tries to offer an apology, but Gordon, sitting with his arm in a sling, isn't ready to concede. She remains resolute, insisting that they haven't lost yet. She gestures toward a screen showing the latest news. Hill is closing in on the mayoral race, with Harvey Dent tied to his campaign. Gordon watches the broadcast, clearly stung by the turn of events, and asks if she remembers how they first met. It turns out their first meeting was an arrest. She had broken a campaign sign that wouldn't fit in his trunk. Instead of booking her, Gordon had let her go and even gave her money for a new one. Gordon reflects on how rare it is to find goodness in Gotham. He urges her to get back to the fight, expressing regret that the city won't be lighting the memorial for the zoo this year. He leaves her with a final, somber request: tell Bruce he said so. At the rainy funeral for Thomas Wayne, Jim Gordon approaches a young Bruce, asking if he wanted to speak with him. Gordon confirms his intent, his expression heavy with the weight of the moment. Gordon kneels to speak to the young Bruce, telling him he has seen many brave acts in his life, but rarely encounters people who are truly brave themselves. He draws a direct parallel to the boy's father, telling Bruce that Thomas shone with that same bravery, a quality he clearly sees reflected in the boy. Gordon delivers a final, somber piece of news, informing Bruce that the zoo is being torn down. He frames it as a mercy, suggesting that getting rid of the site will spare Bruce from having to look at it ever again. A helicopter hovers over a rooftop, the narrator observing that the end of this fever dream is near, and that Batman is finally becoming something lasting and applicable. The observer monitors Batman, noting a slight, almost imperceptible tensing in the vigilante's back. The observer acknowledges they caught that movement, keeping their focus locked on the target. The observer whispers to themselves, telling themselves to stay calm as they watch Batman through their gear. Through the green-tinted scope, the observer scans the scene, questioning if Batman can feel the weight of the moment. The observer remarks that everyone is jealous of Batman. They emphasize that this jealousy exists because Batman actually did it. He pulled off his move. The observer confirms it with a simple, chilling realization: you won. The observer continues to watch the scene below, where armed figures stand ready near the helicopter. Roman Sionis emerges from the chopper, greeting the situation with a twisted, manic energy as he shouts, "Hello there, let's make you rich." Sionis shares a dark, personal admission, telling the unseen Batman that he's jealous because he learned the truth too late, offering a final, mocking toast: "Cheers, Mr. Wayne." Black Mask confirms the anonymous transfer of $200 million went through as planned. Batman, crouching in the shadows, coolly admits he has already spent the entire fortune. Black Mask is genuinely impressed, laughing at the sheer audacity of the move. As the conversation shifts, a sudden flashback cuts to a rainy funeral, with young Bruce Wayne calling out to someone. Young Bruce runs toward Jim Gordon, desperate to stop him. The two stand in the rain, a moment of somber connection between the young heir and the weary officer. Back in the present, Black Mask demands to know what Batman bought: cars, planes, or high-tech gear, only to be told he spent every cent. A massive, singular pile of cash sits waiting. Gordon in the flashback looks down at young Bruce with concern. Young Bruce, breathless and tearful, explains he won't let them destroy the zoo just to build something practical. He wants to create something that shines. The pile of money remains the focus, a stark contrast to the memory. Batman clicks a detonator or device, inviting Black Mask to see exactly what his bribe money purchased. Batman stands amidst the city skyline, casting a massive, glowing bat signal into the night sky. It's a powerful, silent visual that signals his presence to all of Gotham. Black Mask looks up at the sky, clearly unimpressed by the glowing symbol hanging over the city, calling it one ugly bat. News reports ripple through Gotham, describing the massive, glowing signal as a memorial light constructed from the very money Sionis tried to use as a bribe. Sionis, realizing his leverage has been completely dismantled, screams at his party animals that the deal is off. Batman speaks directly to his enemy, making it clear that he hasn't been corrupted by the bribe. He's used it to weaponize the city against Sionis. The party animals scramble in a panic, their advantage gone as the city turns its attention to the spectacle above. Batman plunges into the fray, his final message clear: he doesn't need Roman's resources, he only needs to be Batman. Batman lands a heavy, precise strike, immediately taking down a party animal henchman. He follows through with a sharp, tactical maneuver. The fight continues with brutal efficiency as Batman dispatches another target. A close-up shows the impact of his gear. A henchman screams in pain as he's neutralized. Batman's blade finds its mark. The combat is relentless. Batman lands a strike on a thug. Another thug goes down under a heavy boot. Batman drives his momentum into the next opponent. A thug is knocked out as the fight intensifies. Batman slams his fist into another attacker, keeping the pressure high. A brute with a cleaver rushes him from behind. Batman stares down the threat, coolly declaring it's payback time. He ends the encounter with a decisive, final strike. Batman uses his gear to pin a party animal henchman who struggles in a panic, shouting that he's stuck. Another thug tries to pull his comrade free, but Batman is already on him, delivering a punishing blow. The henchman begs for mercy, but Batman remains focused on the mission. Batman stands over the remnants of the group, calling out the systemic corruption. Batman engages another thug, pulling him in with a cable while delivering a cold observation. He continues his assessment of the criminal's indifference. Batman slams the thug into the ground with a massive impact. Roman Sionis appears, his face obscured by his signature mask, and coldly retorts with a lethal order. Batman is under immediate heavy fire from Sionis's men. The rooftop erupts in gunfire as shooters take aim. A henchman is struck by return fire, reeling back as the skirmish turns deadly. Another shooter continues the barrage, forcing Batman to take cover. More gunfire tears through the scene, keeping the pressure on. Batman leaps into the fray, deflecting bullets with his cape, while Sionis's commander shouts orders to take him down. A tactical net launcher is aimed directly at the Batman. The device fires, sending a weighted webbing hurtling toward him. The net strikes, ensnaring Batman in a thick, inescapable mesh. Batman hits the ground, pinned by the weighted lines, letting out a sharp grunt of pain as he realizes he's been caught. Roman Sionis looms over the netted Batman, barking orders to his men to seize him. Sionis grabs Batman, taunting him while the captive vigilante remains pinned. A jarring, stylized transition panel punctuates the struggle. Batman, undeterred by his capture, reveals that Sionis's confessions have already been broadcast to every news station in Gotham. Batman lets out a dark, knowing chuckle. Sionis is visibly rattled, leaning in to mock Batman's perceived victory. A close-up on Batman's cowl highlights his intense focus. A tight shot focuses on the camera lens, symbolizing the broadcast. Sionis's accomplice, a woman in a mask, joins the taunting, finding the situation amusing. A burning pile of cash illuminates the rooftop, a stark reminder of Batman's sabotage. Sionis continues to belittle Batman's idealism, convinced that his crusade to inspire Gotham is futile. A grim close-up of Batman's face shows him listening. Sionis delivers a final, condescending blow, telling Batman he is not the main character of this story. The accomplice stands over the helpless Batman, holding a blowtorch, ready to finish the job. Sionis' accomplice unleashes a torrent of fire, engulfing the restrained Batman in a brutal display of force. As the flames roar, the accomplice coldly declares that money, not Batman, is the true hero of this story. Batman is shown struggling within the net, his suit beginning to smoke from the heat. The accomplice watches with a detached, chilling sense of satisfaction, remarking that this is cool. Batman is slammed into the rooftop, the impact of the attack echoing through the scene. Another heavy strike lands, with the accomplice continuing to assault the immobilized vigilante. Batman is knocked backward, the sheer force of the blow driving him toward the edge of the roof. He hangs in the air, momentarily suspended by the net, as the flames continue to lick at his tactical gear. The accomplice looms over his fallen target, weapon in hand, as the full moon looms in the background. He stares down at the battered Batman, promising that he is about to prove his point about the power of money once and for all. Batman manages to deploy a parachute, swinging away from the rooftop as his pursuers lose their immediate grip on him. He descends rapidly, the dark chute cutting through the Gotham skyline. The chute slams into a vehicle below, creating a massive, fiery impact that leaves the car a wreck. An operative on the ground spots the movement, shouting into his comms to mobilize all units to 29th and 3rd. A helicopter gunner tracks Batman through the smoke, reporting that while he landed a hit, the target is already on the move. Jim Gordon, monitoring the chaos from his patrol car, confirms he is responding to the scene. A GCPD cruiser arrives at the parking garage, its light bar cutting through the dark as lasers from tactical gear sweep the area. Nearby, Batman crouches in the shadows, his suit battered and torn from the recent firefight. Inside the cruiser, the officer behind the wheel catches sight of the vigilante, stunned by his sudden appearance. Batman makes a desperate move, vaulting over the hood of the police car with a heavy thud. An officer on foot immediately draws her weapon and levels it at him. She screams a command, her finger tightening on the trigger as she threatens to open fire. Batman doesn't even flinch, he simply challenges her to pull the trigger. He slips beneath the street, disappearing into the dark opening of a manhole. Back at the cruiser, the officer asks Jim Gordon if he has a visual on their target. Gordon, standing over the open manhole, admits he's lost him completely. Roman Sionis' Black Mask takes over the city's airwaves. He sits calmly among his fallen men, sharing a disturbing anecdote about his time on a pig farm where he used a captive bolt pistol to put animals down. He describes a rare reaction where the pigs would seemingly find ecstasy in their final moments. His audience, including a stunned Jim Gordon, watches on, struggling to process the nihilistic lecture. Sionis explains the biology behind this reaction, pointing to the hedonistic hub in the brain, a center for pure pleasure. He notes that this only happened when the animal stopped fighting and simply accepted its fate. Sionis pivots from his story to the state of Gotham, comparing the city's citizens to those pigs. He argues that the elite have already killed the world, yet they keep the public laboring under a lie. As his men continue to load up, Sionis highlights the vast inequality of Gotham, contrasting the daily struggles of the average person against the excessive lifestyles of the wealthy. Sionis lands his point, questioning why the people continue to uphold a system that only exploits them, leaving Gordon to stare at the screen, confronted by the cold reality of Sionis' philosophy. Batman is isolated in the dark, his massive vehicle nearby, as he tries to process the mounting costs of his war on Gotham. He's forced to perform self-surgery, gritting his teeth in raw pain as he stitches his own wounds. An expletive escapes him, showing the sheer intensity of the physical toll he's paying. He demands the medic stop staring and focus on helping him set his arm. Batman reveals he successfully planted a tracker on Black Mask during their struggle, but his plea for medical help is met with a cold refusal. The medic, unmoved by Batman's mission, refuses to assist him any further. He leaves Batman alone, warning him that the consequences of what happens next are entirely on his shoulders. Batman is left completely alone in the dark, struggling to hold himself together as the weight of his situation settles in. Roman Sionis continues his twisted broadcast, his voice echoing over the city. He declares that all ideals, progress, and truth are dead, urging the citizens to stop fighting and simply accept their fate to find a fleeting final moment of ecstasy. Jim Gordon watches the screen, visibly shaken, while a bystander asks what is happening. Gordon can only offer a grim warning to stay back as the situation spirals. Sionis reveals his final, chaotic masterstroke. Since Batman rejected his bribe, he is now dumping hundreds of millions of dollars directly into the streets for anyone to take. As party animal enforcers stand ready in the background, Sionis signs off with a chilling final taunt, "Welcome to the party, Gotham." And that unfortunately concludes our comic cap for today. Do you believe Roman Sionis' public bribe is a genuine attempt to liberate Gotham, or is it just a calculated move to incite total anarchy? Let me know your answer in the comments section down below. Be sure to subscribe and press that notification bell for daily comic caps. Until next time, take care, brush your hair, I'll see you when I see you, peace.